Hello, my handsome lovelies. I'm Regina Rex, the witch queen of the north, of the truth, the seer of future, and the ambassador of all engulfing love. Today, I'm going to talk to you about words and stories. Stories that people tell about themselves and others, because the stories are the real magic that shape and change our world. Speaking of stories, and words. The relationship between simple faith and simple suspension of disbelief is in the eye of the believer. The common thread that links them is a story and its relationship with power. History is the account of events as recorded by those in power. Religion is often the tool of that power used to enforce its authority. But folklore is the story of the common people, their hopes and their dreams, or their desires and fears, passed from mouth to mouth, often in defiance of those in authority for generations. And because of the centuries, the common people have not had the same access to education and literacy as those who write the history books. This common lore has always been on the margins of history, fragmented, half forgotten, eclipsed by the tyranny of the printed word, the history we think we know. What better place than now to find the marginalized by society? We are living in a time of increasing intolerance for those who defy society's norms. The word queer, which entered the English language sometime in the 16th century, derives from a number of sources, notably from Latin torquere, to twist, and until the 19th century, where it began to imply sexual deviancy, meant odd, wrong, and peculiar. Nowadays, it has been reclaimed as a term to describe those who are neither heterosexual nor cisgender. Both words that entered our language relatively recently, much to the disapproval of those who wish to control its story and prevent its evolution. Because language, too, is narrative. Like myth, like religion, it comes from many sources, some official, some unofficial. Stories tell us who we are. Folklore tries to tell why. Queerness and sex exist as thread that runs through the world mythology, from Africa to China, to India to South America, to ancient Egypt and all over Europe. Gods and folkloric heroes can change sex, fall in love with beings of the same sex, become hermaphrodite, transform into beings of different sex, or sometimes assume a asexual aspect. From the Epic of the Gilgamesh to Iliad, queer relationships abound. Lives, identities, and experiences that we would categorize as trans are often historically portrayed as specifically sacred. The word cis comes from Latin and it simply means at the same side. Trans is the opposite, means at the other side. So cisgender means that your third assigned gender identity matches your identity. It's not slang, it's not political, and it definitely is not a slur. It's just a language doing it what it should do. Let me take you back in the 1970s, in an early afternoon at the yard of newly built terraced house, built on hopes and mortgages. There are two 4-year-old girls playing at the yard, under watchful eyes of their nannies. Sounds posh and grand, doesn't it? But until 1973, there wasn't a Child Care Act. And when the Child Care Act came, it took some time to take root. So at the beginning of the 1970s, It was the common reality for working, educated moms to rely on nannies to see after their children. So on this particular afternoon, my mother is arriving home from work, and she sees those two girls playing at the yard. She immediately recognizes the other one. She is Anu, the neighbor's girl. But who is the other girl with the golden flowing locks? Who is that lovely girl? She thinks. Then, to her absolute horror, she realizes it is her oldest son, Maure. The very next day, Mai lost her locks. But this isn't Mai's memory. Mai didn't have a concept of gender then. She wasn't neither a boy nor a girl. She was just me. This was my mother's memory, or Mai's mother's memory, and her story. All our lives are stories, and they begin before we are even born. They are told by our forthcoming parents and relatives and loved ones, and then they are good stories. Or sometimes they are stories that start with unexpected paths, not so good stories at all, but stories after all. And when we are very young, we don't have words and concepts to tell our story. And when we grow up, we gradually start to tell our own story as well. But still, we hardly ever get believed when we are young or understood because our words don't match the story around. And our parents and relative stories always contains hopes, expectations of future. They tell us what is proper and how you should behave, how you should study, how you should do things. And those things are told from love. And when things are told by love, they are very hard to ignore, even if they don't match your reality. My mother always smelled like baby cologne and moisturizers. Despite smoking like she had a child in jail, she always seemed freshly showered, like saints who defy purification and still smell like flowers even in death. She was very affectionate and didn't seem to hold a grudge against me for having forced her to give birth to a 2-foot blockhead who weighed in at 12 pounds. We adored each other, and it would be our downfall. From a very young age, I understood that my mother dispensed a love that aspired to keep everything suspended in a perfect present, where we remained immutable, or in which we carried out to the life she imagined for us. Any detour along our projected path would always seem to her a defeat or leave an indelible mark of guilt on her heart. Ever since I'd been capable of structuring my thoughts, I wanted to tell her that I wasn't entirely me, that I was confused, and that I was suffering, that my dancing to Irene Cara songs and obsession with Madonna had always been on neon signs in the darkness and signified more than their apparent frivolity. They were jolts of freedom that I projected out on the night sky, hoping, scared and expectant that someone would be able to decipher them. The words never quite came out, and I didn't have the tools to undertake something so complicated that even I was anxious to bury in a mass grave of shame. I couldn't forget certain assertion that seemed so categorical, and that I'd been hearing throughout my whole short life, as if my mother had caught some glimmer in me that she didn't like, and had hatched a subliminal plan to silence it. The fear you feel in the closet creates monsters out of shadow play. Every time she gushed out about how happy she was to have two sons, even though Arturo really wanted girls, but I prefer boys, they are straight shooters, little lords, or her insistence in calling us tough guys. with extreme pride any chance he got, as if that moniker was a promise to be fulfilled as well as a reward bestowed on us for cleaning our plates or accomplishing some other task. They were small comments that gradually snowballed and seemed to describe another sort of creature who was not me. There was no malice in them, but my sensitive and conscientious nature registered them as warnings of shame around any reaction of such roles. I wasn't tough or straight shooter or any of those things. By little by little, I found myself trying to be, so that in my mother's eyes, I wouldn't seem like the weak and disappointing opposite, which was exactly what I wanted to be. In 1995, internet became a reality, but it was a dialogue, and not everyone had it. Especially if you lived in a rural town that was a home for a religious movement or something like that. So you didn't necessarily have access to forbidden knowledge. You might have heard about contraception. You might have heard about sexual transmitted diseases, but you definitely had heard about sin. The thing that religion and the society does to your soul when you have just two rigid boxes like male or female or expectation of being heterosexual, even though you don't know have a word heterosexual because you don't have internet, so you don't know about gays and such things. And even when the law says that you are a criminal because you are not standard human being. As late as 1997, homosexuality was forbidden by law, for example, in Tasmania. So, on that environment, it crushes your soul because you have no words how to tell your story, no mirrors to reflect yourself. So, you are utterly alone and afraid. But when the realization hits you and you really realize who you are, then it fills your mind completely. My mistake wasn't that what I had said, but when I had said it. Even though I observed the conversations like fog, I still couldn't read the people. And that what I had thought to be a pause was actually a dramatic silence in conversation between Greg's speech. I could have at, as well shot his favorite Wednesday at the face. Is this funny to you? He asked angrily. Before even the laughter had subsided, everybody stared at me, and I wasn't able to speak, so I just shook my head and looked at the floor. That Greg didn't expect, but it didn't matter. He rushed to his counter-argument like I had said, yes, it was the funniest thing that they have ever heard. And it was quite funny, but I still looked at the floor while he lectured to me on with all witnesses present. His brother was gay, he said. His life was hell, Greg complained. His rights are trodden, Greg yelled. He was like a white woman in year 2020. I wanted him to stop at yelling me because my body burned and my ears rang. I wanted to rock back and forth at my chair, but I didn't dare because I was already at the cliff of the total humiliation. Greg continued his monologue, but I didn't understand the noises he produced. because my head was filled with the fact that I didn't want to believe, and I couldn't say aloud even I could have been able to speak. I'm a lesbian. 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 This in year 1995, when in Tasmania, where homosexuality was a crime until 1997. Till the very late of 1990, we didn't have words to describe who we are. We did have some checkboxes: gay, lesbian, bisexual. At the end of the year 1990, at the end of the year 1990s, the vocabulary became much wider. We got terms like, someone would, for example, say that they are bottom, demi-pansexual, and in one phrase tell their role in the intimacy, that their affection needed deep emotional connection, and their target of their love's gender didn't matter at all. But to understand those word meaning of the necessity of the words, we have to recognize that our sexuality cannot be described by checkboxes or labels, because it is fluid. Even if we had 100 or so terms describing sexuality, still there wouldn't be enough. And that's not the failure of the language, it's the beauty of being human being. And same goes with gender. Uh, to better understand that, we could look at the gender as four aspects. One, there is the assigned gender. In Finland, that assigned gender is hard-coded on your personal identity code. If your last digit before the checksum is odd, then you are male, and if it is even, then you are female. Then you can see that assigned sexuality in statistical questionnaires, typically male, female, other, prefer not to say. So that's your assigned gender. Then there's your perceived gender. That is what people assume you to be without asking you, actually. Then there is the presented gender, the art of you, how you move, how you work, how you dress, how you talk, how you show your gender to the world, or your gender expression. So the expressed gender. Mistakes between perceived and expressed gender can be quite frightening or hilarious. Let me tell you an example of my life. A year after coming out and year after divorce, she had lost 8 kilograms and looked quite slim and trim. She was also in a phase where it's almost all trans feminine people go through. Let's say that there is an imaginary ISO standard, quality standard, ISO 9001 woman, but think it is a standard that was written mostly by male and mostly for male gays. All trans feminine women have read that, and they know deep in their hearts that they are failing horrible. So they wear padded bras, padded undies, short skirts, and makeup that is more suitable for a date night than casual shopping in hardware store or somewhere. So imagine mine is going in Bauhaus. with her ex. They are going to buy something for the ex, and Maya has been asked to help her because Maya has car. So she is walking there on the high towering aisles and halls of Bauhaus with short skirt, showing leg, with her heels clicking because she's trying to do a catwalk walk. And she now and then discusses with her ex something they were looking for. Suddenly, she notices that her ex doesn't answer her anymore, shows that she has left behind. So she stops and waits, and when the ex catches, she's laughing. She tells Mai that she caught a man admiring Mai's legs, and that the man was about to cutclaw her when he heard Mai to speak and got red in the face and vanished into the plumbing aisles. And the fourth one is your really gender, your internal compass, the one who you feel to be. And I would say that that is not binary either. Most of us are nearing the ends of the line. Here is male and here is female, but hardly anyone is completely female or male. But where does the hostility against queer people today come from? The ancient powers have built a pyramid, and at the top of that pyramid is white, heterosexual, cisgender male, and others who want to access that power should just find a good husband. And those who believe in this old kind of system see every deviation for that structure as a threat, especially if you are a trans feminine woman. Why on earth would anyone who has been perceived as male at the top of the pyramid give up and go down for authenticity? They see it's like a power move or something, way of trying to get ahead instead of just being you. And that is scary because they think that they will lose power if this destruction goes away. So perhaps that is why they are so angry. And that is why they must enforce their word and model to everyone. But the subject divide today is between the youth and those who have came out on their 40s, 50s, or 60s. The youth tend to think that if you waited so long, then your authenticity, it is not your identity is not authentic. Why did you wait so long? If I was you, I would have killed myself 1,000 times before 40 years old. But they forget that the world was quite different, as I've already told you. It wasn't question of authenticity. It was question of lack of the words, and it was just a survival strategy. For the very long time, the only stories that we were allowed to know about coming out were sad stories where people were shamed or isolated or something like that. But coming out, when you finally do it, can be a very liberating expression experience. The first time I went out on the street in a dress and a makeup without any ambiguities. The first time I presented fully as woman in public without the aesthetic escape well could be used to justify my appearance as merely effeminate. was a moment of power when there was no inertia or fear that could stop me. I had never felt like that before. The euphoria I'd felt the night I confident Jay to come back multiplied a hundredfold. It was an adult euphoria, a happiness that overcame any look I might get. For once in my life, I felt that I was above hatred, shame, and prejudice. I wanted to be right there more than anywhere else. I wanted to be myself without fantasizing about fear transformations. Every time my heels hit the ground, it was a victorious song. And I felt that the stars were aligned to offer me a glimpse of divinity. I was alive and driving my own heart to keep beating instead of dragging it along and waiting indefinitely for it to stop. Nowadays, I have lots of stories about coming out. And all those stories are like a culminating points. They start like from the situation where you are in, and then like a snap of the fingers or click of the light switch, then you are out. It's dramatic and everybody is happy and congratulations. But for the person coming out, it never is like that. It's not a single step over the cliff. It's inching slowly to the cliff before the final step. And it can take years. And if you are very young, as already said, it needs concepts and words how to describe what you are coming out as. So in my case, it took the final step to more than 5 years to complete. And it required my mother passing away first. So it's not a light switch. Uh, there is a very good book about how someone found their true identity. Tells how you have inklings of what you are and how to describe yourself. It tells you how you step by step proceed to the point where you are ready for the world as yourself. Tell your story as it should have been told from the very beginning. Everyone wants to be a hero of their story. Remember, as I said, our lives are stories, or actually bundle of intertwined stories told by us ourselves, our colleagues at the board, our parents, our relatives, our loved ones, and sometimes even people on magazines or everywhere. They're all intertwined and create a complete story that is you. And we all usually tend to want to be heroes of that story. Or at least we would like to have some kind of control how that story is written, how we are perceived. And that means that when we are celebrating Pride, we should remember two things. We still live in a society and in a culture where it's a struggle for some people to come out, and we should make noise to make that happen more easily. And secondly, when you finally come out and you get to live like yourself, your true self, is a very joyous moment, and that should be celebrated. Happy Pride to everyone, and thanks for listening.